All right, we're back here on a Wednesday. Philly's #1 college radio station, WHIP. Main event, Zach Gelb and Chase Sr. here with you. Let's go out to the phone lines right now as my next guest is one of the most diligent men in the industry. Does play-by-play for MLB on Fox. Will be calling the Giant game this Sunday at Lincoln Financial Field, Giants-Eagles. And he's also the play-by-play voice of the New York Hockey Rangers, which are struggling as well, and he'll come to Philadelphia Thursday as Flyers-Rangers get ready for tomorrow. So let's welcome in Kenny Albert. Kenny, it's Zach Gelb and Chase Sr. Thanks for coming on today, and how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, guys.
Well, thank you for coming on. And this is a Red Sox team that gets ready to open up the World Series home tonight, 8:07 start time, going up against the St. Louis Cardinals. These two teams are no strangers to each other as they met up in that 2004 World Series that gave Boston a big-time win and broke the curse. But this is a Red Sox team a year ago under Bobby Valentine struggled. They were the worst team in the AL East. And then after 1 year going to John Farrell, they turned things around. What has been the difference under this Red Sox team with John Farrell, where a year ago they go from being one of the worst teams in baseball and now they're one of the best in baseball?
Well, it has been a remarkable turnaround, Zach, and I had the opportunity to work 3 or 4 Red Sox games during the regular season, and I think one of the things we noticed early on, some of the players they brought in from other teams, veterans, Mike Napoli, Johnny Gomes, Shane Victorino, and a couple of others, Ryan Dempster, guys who not only are good players, but good in the clubhouse. And, the issues have been well documented, what took place in Boston over the prior 2 seasons. So they added guys who can, help on the field. And you look at Victorino's Grand Slam, to put away the Tigers in the ALCS. And Napoli had some huge hits in the playoffs. But I think just as important is what those guys brought to the clubhouse and the atmosphere off the field.
Kenny, when I look at this team, the first word that comes to mind is resilience. And this has been a city also with the whole Boston Strong campaign after the tragic marathon that has really thrived off that. And this is a team, you look at David Ortiz in the ALCS, 2 hits only. Victorino, 3 hits only. But they had big grand slams late into games and dramatic comebacks. And you look at that and you say, all that stuff's great that they get to the World Series. But in the first 6 innings, they have to start getting their bats going. Can this team going up against Wainwright and Waka in game 1 and 2 get the bats going early?
Well, it's certainly a formidable pitching staff on the other side with the guys you mentioned, with Wainwright and Waka, who's had an unbelievable rookie season. But, the first 2 games at Fenway, they're comfortable there. And, some of the guys we talked about have had some big hits. They certainly need David Ortiz to get going. And it sounds like he won't start in every game, obviously, in St. Louis, where the pitcher will hit. But it should be a fun series. I think, best team in the American League during the regular season, best team in the National League, and both certainly deserve to be where they are right now.
Hey, Kenny, it's Chase Sr. Thanks for hopping on with us. Alan Craig will be DHing for the Cardinals in games 1 and 2. He missed about 6 weeks with a foot injury. Had a fantastic year, batted .315 with 97 ribbies, and one of the best hitters in the league with runners in scoring position. How big of a boost will he give to that Cardinals lineup?
Yeah, I think it's big. He's another one of those guys. You talk about Waka, I don't want to say coming out of nowhere, but not a lot of people knew his name, until about 2 months ago. But, the Cardinals, you look at what they've done as an organization over the last decade or so, complete makeover. When you look back to that 06 team and, the success they've had in the postseason the last few years. But, they're one of those teams in sports, and we've seen it in other sports, with the New Jersey Devils, for example, in hockey, and we've seen it in football and basketball, of course, where it's the organization more than the players.
Right.
And they draft well, and they sign free agents, and they plug guys in, and, some of those players who you don't expect become heroes in the postseason, and Craig's been one of them over the last few years.
Yeah, you talk about the Cardinals' development, and the way that they're in the thick of things every single year is amazing. It really speaks to the talent of the front office. And when you look at the Red Sox, as Zach mentioned a couple moments ago, they've really flip-flopped from last year to this year. 2 evenly matched teams, 2 really good pitching staffs. The bullpen for both teams has been fantastic as well, and the lineup 1 through 9 has a lot of talent for both squads. How do you see things playing out? Because I think it could come down to a 7-game series.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'll be a long series, and there are so many great storylines. Carlos Beltran getting to his first World Series after all these years. Ryan Dempster getting to his first World Series. Koji Uehara, the MVP of the ALCS, a guy who, for a little bit had become a trivia question.
It's been brilliant.
Who was the player that was traded away for Chris Davis when the Orioles acquired Chris Davis, and now you look at what he's doing in Boston. And, from a television standpoint, a guy that, I've gotten to work with a little bit through the years, and I think he's the best to ever work baseball, in the analyst chair, Tim McCarver, working his final World Series, and there was a great story in the New York Times today on Tim, so I'm just looking forward to sitting back and listening to Tim. And, ironically, it's two of the teams he played for, had such a great career with the Cardinals, winning a World Series, obviously, in '64, and then playing for the Red Sox later in his career. So I had the opportunity to work 2 Red Sox-Yankee games with Tim this year, and, one of the best first guessers of all time. He'll tell you something before it happens as opposed to, why it happened after it happens. So I think for the listeners who, haven't heard too much of Tim perhaps through the years, it's one final chance. And, he's not going away for good. He's going to be working somewhere. That's what he's said throughout the year, but it will be his last World Series on network TV.
Kenny Albert joins us on the hotline. Philly's #1 college radio station, WHIP. Main event, Zach Gelb and Chase Sr. here with you. Kenny will be on the call for Fox this upcoming Sunday, Giants and the Philadelphia Eagles. And it's expected that Michael Vick's going to start under center for the Birds. Nick Foles is battling a little bit of a concussion, but the big debate last week was if both were healthy, do you go to Nick Foles or Michael Vick? What have you seen so far out of both of those quarterbacks, as Chip Kelly's in a decision that's going to be a tough one to make over the next few weeks?
Yeah, it was unfortunate when Foles went out because he had been playing well, and you look at his numbers this season, 6 touchdowns, no interceptions. Certainly sounds from the reports yesterday that it could be Vic, but I'm looking forward to getting in there and meeting with Chip Kelly on Friday and watching practice and talking to players, because our crew hasn't had the Eagles this year. So, I've only kind of watched from afar, seeing games on television, on tape, and highlights. And, the Giants obviously coming off a win after their 0-6 start. And, the NFC East, certainly not what many people expected it to be this year, with the Redskins coming off their division title, and they've only won twice. And the Eagles obviously up and down at 3-4 now, and the Giants with 1 win. But, I think whenever these teams get together, you can throw out the records. Doesn't matter, who's in second place, first place, last place. It's always a terrific matchup, and these teams certainly don't like each other, once the ball gets kicked off, so it should be a lot of fun on Sunday.
What I've seen so far to this Chip Kelly offense is a plethora of plays, but the point totals have been very inconsistent. Some weeks they're able to go out there, like week 1 up against Washington, put up 30-plus points, and then they go up against a Kansas City Chiefs team, and the team wasn't able to move the ball anywhere on the offensive side. And you've seen Shady McCoy get a lot of carries this year. Deshaun Jackson's having a big bounce-back year. Why do you think the Chip Kelly offense has been very inconsistent this year when it comes to putting up a lot of points?
Well, it's a good question, and I'm kind of still, in the middle of the studying and preparation for the game. But one thing that stood out to me is interesting that the 3 highest number of plays for the Eagles in the 7 games are all against the NFC East. And, trying to research some of the trends and why that's taken place. I know turnovers certainly have a role in that. And, you look at the 3 games against the AFC West teams, all losses, in consecutive weeks, San Diego, Kansas City, and Denver. Those were 3 of the 4 lowest play totals for the Eagles on offense this season. So, like I said, still in the midst of it, still watching the games and looking at the numbers and statistics and reading about it, but hopefully we'll have a clearer picture come Sunday.
Kenny, you mentioned that you've kind of watched the NFL from afar so far this year. Who has really impressed you as a team thus far that you didn't expect to either be as successful or be disappointing like they have been?
Well, I think, obviously you have to look at Kansas City and you guys and the listeners
for sure.
Well aware of the situation.
Big Red.
With Andy Reid, who, and I've said this to you guys before, but I think he doesn't get enough credit in Philadelphia for the entire body of work, going to 5 NFC championship games. And I know it was only 1 trip to the Super Bowl and the Eagles lost, but, it's kind of like the Buffalo Bills, who don't get enough credit for going to 4 straight Super Bowls because they didn't win one. So, great story in Kansas City. They won only 2 games last year. They did have 6 players named to the Pro Bowl, so there obviously is talent there. On the flip side, I think you have to look at some of the teams in the NFC. The Redskins with only 2 wins, and I think they're coming on. They're on an upswing. We had their game last week against Chicago. They put up 45 points. And
that was some game.
Yeah, it was a great game, and I think RG3 is back to where he was last year, during his high points of his rookie season. So they have a tough schedule coming up, Denver and San Diego the next 2, but I do feel the Redskins are on the upswing. The Giants with only 1 win, obviously very surprising. Pittsburgh. St. Louis, I know Bradford's out now, but, they were a team that I thought might have done a little better at the start of the season. We had them a couple of times, and they lost both of those games, falling behind early. So, week 8 coming up. The first 7 have gone by pretty quickly, and there's probably some team out there that's going to go on a run that you don't expect at this point, but should be fun to watch.
That's also been a very shocking thing to me, has been the slow start from the Giants. I thought they were going to win the NFC East this year, but they suffered a bunch of injuries on the offensive line. They're going with the rookie local kid Justin Pugh as well in the tackle spot. And the quarterback Eli Manning, who's won 2 Super Bowls, 2 Super Bowl MVPs as well, beating 2 very good Patriot teams, 10 touchdowns to 15 interceptions. What do you make out of the slow start from Eli Manning, although they did get a victory on Monday night?
Well, I think, you look back to the Dallas game week 1, and that probably could have gone either way. The Giants lose by 5. They, had 3 turnovers early on the first 3 drives, and, then they have to play Denver the next week, the Eli Payton matchup. So they fall to 0-2 pretty quickly, and then things kind of snowball. The one I was shocked at was the Carolina game, 38-0. I mean, you can make a case for the Giants going into Kansas City and losing, which they did. The Eagle game, obviously could have gone either way, and the Chicago game was close. But it was the Carolina game. I think if they win that game, perhaps, things don't snowball as much as they have. But like you said, the injuries on the offensive line, the running back situation's been just ridiculous with all the guys that Giants have been forced to use. And, they lost some key players on defense with Osi Umenyiora leaving for Atlanta. Stevie Brown, who had a terrific year last year, out for the season, suffering the injury prior to the regular season. So you don't want to use injuries as an excuse, but they've certainly been a big part of it.
Kenny, we appreciate a few minutes today. I'll see you tomorrow night as the Rangers get ready to take on the Flyers. I'll be at that game as well. And hopefully our New York Rangers, I know we both bleed some blue for the New York Rangers, get another victory because it's been a slow start under the new coach.
Well, 2-5, and, we could see Cam Talbot making his NHL debut in goal tomorrow. Henrik Lundqvist, some, minor injury issues over the last few days, so it could be Talbot in goal for the Rangers tomorrow night. But I look forward to seeing you there, Zach.
Thanks, Kenny. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Kenny Albert right there does an excellent job for Fox on the NFL and MLB front. Also does Rangers hockey on ESPN. 215-204-9449 is our number. We'll take a quick time out here on the main event, and when we get back on the other side, we'll go up to Boston right now. Game 1 of the World Series tonight at 8:07. It's the St. Louis Cardinals and the Boston Red Sox, and we will go to Michael Holley of Sports Radio WEEI. We'll take a quick time out and be back here on the main event. Gelb and Chase rolling along on a Wednesday.